Jeff Johnson got 3 things you need to know. What up, Jeff?
Man, what up, Rick? What up, everybody, man? Rick, I am in Cleveland. Want to say what's up to everybody listening on 93.1 WZAK. And I got 3 things for you, brother. First, there is, in this state, a whole lot of things that Donald Trump is upset about. And I think it's interesting. There is a group, Rick, that is called the Club for Growth. The Club for Growth is led by former Congressman McIntosh. And he really, at one point, was like hardcore in the Trump camp. Was brought up on stage by Trump, was celebrated by Trump. But interestingly enough, here in Ohio, he has gone against J.D. Vance, who is the candidate that Trump is supporting. And is causing a great deal of riff. And I bring this up because we've talked a whole lot about who the GOP belongs to. And this Club for Growth it has considerable amount of resources. They're all about free market economy. And they even say on their website that they're willing to challenge anybody, Republican or Democrat, that doesn't line up with their policies. And so it's going to be interesting as we start looking at these races, especially the primaries, how many Trump-supported candidates don't make it as a result of support from this Club for Growth, and what that means for other Republicans who actually don't want to be aligned with the president, the former president, as we get not only into the midterm, but as we set up for another presidential election. So that it's really interesting. It's going to have, even for those of us that don't consider ourselves Republicans, it's really going to stretch, I think, former president's hold on the GOP. Another story that I found interesting, the Root.com reported on Harvard University, just did a 134-page report, if you will, on slavery. And Harvard created a $100 million fund, Rick, as an attempt to make amends for their role in slavery. And the Root reported that some of the key findings in the report were that slavery of indigenous and of African people was an integral part of life in Massachusetts and Harvard during the colonial era, that between the university's founding in 1636 and the end of slavery in the Commonwealth, Harvard faculty, staff, and leaders enslaved more than 70 individuals and listed those slaves' names. Some of the enslaved worked and lived on campus, where they cared for Harvard presidents and professors, fed generations of Harvard students. Through connections to multiple donors, the university had extensive financial ties to and profited from slavery during the 17th, 18th, and 19th centuries. And the legacies of slavery persisted at Harvard and throughout American society after the Constitution and laws officially prescribed human bondage. Now, what I find most interesting about this is nobody's surprised by this. We know that it's Massachusetts. We know what slavery was. We know that institutions that were around at the founding, even before the founding of the country, benefited from slavery. Here's what I think the most interesting thing is, Rick, is that Harvard put together a $100 million fund, right?
Right.
Do you know what Harvard's endowment is?
What?
$53.2 billion.
Oh yeah, I'm not shocked.
No, but let's start calling stuff what it is. You do this 134. Listen, who am I to tell Harvard what they should or should not do? But if you just talked about slavery being part of the foundation of the very wealth of the country and the institution, you're sitting on $53.2 billion in an endowment. That not what you're bringing in on an annual basis. And let's juxtapose that. Do you know what the largest endowment is of any HBCU?
What?
Howard University has the largest endowment of any HBCU with $795 million.
Oh, wow.
The top 10 HBCU endowments combined is $2.7 billion.
Right.
So my thing is, if you want to make amends for slavery after you've acknowledged that the very wealth that you have was built on slavery, let's not do it by making proclamations of a $100 million fund that in some way, shape, or form is what you think is going to make amends. I mean, and this leads to the last thing I want to talk about, which, in June, we'll be looking at 2 years since the death of excuse me, we'll be looking at 2 years since we found ourselves in this place where all these corporations were making all of these proclamations about what they were going to give, whether it was to social justice or whether it was to black businesses. And I'm really hoping that there are a bunch of folks, and if you all know of any, please let me know, people that are doing reports on what companies or organizations committed to by way of dollars and what the impact of that has been. Because there were a whole lot of proclamations about 100 million, 250 million, all this stuff. But we really as a community should identify where did that money go, what did it go to, and what the impact was. And I'm sure that there's some people doing it, so y'all let me know. Those are three things I got, Rick. Y'all can hit me at Jeff's Nation on all social media. Absolutely love y'all. Have a great Thursday and a good weekend. I'll talk to y'all next week.